Bitter criticism. Tuesday. Um, Tuesday. I don't remember, but at least YouTube. At least YouTube is promising. At least YouTube is thriving, definitely. There's a lot, not just one or two channels waving China's rise. Unfortunately, I'm not a Chinese citizen. I'm so sad about I'm honestly sad about not being a Chinese anything. Could be even a Chinese student, anything. A Chinese boyfriend, a Chinese girlfriend, anything. Please take me to China. I always remember this guy, this Argentinian lumpen proletariat guy from right here in Chile. Nobody knows if he is alive. Unfortunately, somehow people survive in this shithole which is Chile. These people survive here. Nobody knows how. This guy said, no, China is not so great. What the hell? This Argentinian homeless saying China is not so great. The only explanation for this is this guy doesn't know YouTube, you know. This guy definitely doesn't know YouTube. He just repeating shit from the streets. The streets are terribly informed, and sometimes there's Chinese tourists here. And I'm definitely sure. I'm sure that someday Chinese tourists, they will be the majority, you know. There will be so much Chinese students, Chinese tourists, that nobody will deny. Nobody will be able to deny. Nobody could deny. China is the biggest power, is the bigger powerhouse in the world. And as I always say, there's some problems to this. But I hope in the end China will remain communist, and this homeless from Chile, this Argentinian far-right homeless, he will have some education, you know. He will have something, even a free meal, anything. But anyway, we have CGTN, Al Jazeera. Some time ago I didn't read Russia Today. Russia Today doesn't have an app, so we are reading it on YouTube. No, we are reading it on Google Chrome, on regular internet. Trump wants a deal. Putin wants victory. Ukraine will get what it deserves. Analysis. This analysis by Sergei Poletaev. Unfortunately, Timur Fomenko give up. I feel really sorry about this, because he was my very favorite analyst. He was because he said he used to say something different, you know, something new. And even it's not true. Well, nobody knows exactly what history what the real history is. Even in modern times, this is a paradox about history. History is an interpretation always. Any passage of history, any time in history is just It's just an interpretation from facts. So the facts are interpretations, and the interpretation always are fictions. So interpretations are fictions. Fictions are interpretations. And that's it. And usually the powerful, the tyrants, the presidents, the oligarchies, they interpret the facts, the fictions. They create the fictions. Anyway, so that's the real meaning of fictions. Fictions are thinking. People, human beings, think through fictions. Everything is a fiction. Love, charity, trustworthy. Everything is fiction. Everything is a little story or a huge story. But anyway, Timur Fomenko, I miss you. I miss you so badly. Anyway, April 21st, home, Russia and former Soviet Union. Trump wants a deal. Putin wants victory. Ukraine will get what it deserves. With EU arming Ukraine and US elites pushing escalation, peace may be the one thing Washington can allow. By Sergei Poletaev, information analyst and publicist, co-founder and editor of the Vatfor project. And there's a photograph, a Russian serviceman of the Akhmat Special Forces fires a D-30 howitzer towards Ukrainian positions amid Russia's military operation in Ukraine in Kursk region, Russia. There was a photograph. You heard that war in war, nevertheless war. The Eastern ceasefire has come. The Eastern ceasefire has come and gone. Gone. No more ceasefire. With Russia and Ukraine trading accusations over thousands of violations, and fighting resumes across the front lines. Yet another reminder of how difficult it is to bring this war to an end. A war between Russia and the West, and the collective West. Amid the renewed hostilities, Donald Trump's long-promised peace plan is colliding with geopolitical realities. Despite back-channel talks with the Kremlin and growing pressure from both allies and opponents, Trump has yet to produce a deal that doesn't resemble capitulation or undermine his own political standing. With a new offensive looming and patience-wearing theme, the real question now is whether peace is still on the table, and if so, on whose terms. Are you looking my dog here? Milu. Now you can see him. Milu likes some light, some sunlight. The relentless push for peace. The fundamental difference between President Donald Trump and his predecessor Joe Biden is that Trump is genuinely trying to negotiate a meaningful peace with Russia. He has no interest in prolonging what he sees as a losing war inherited from Biden, and he's determined to end it. But he also knows he can't accept just any deal. He needs a version of peace that won't look like a defeat. After all, his critics are ready to frame any compromise as his own personal Afghanistan. That's the framework Trump is working within. What motivates Russian President Vladimir Putin isn't really a top concern for him. So he sends a trusted confidant, Steve Witkoff, to explore the possibility of striking a deal with the Kremlin. In his meeting with Putin, Witkoff likely hears the same hardline message the Russian leader shares in public. and reportedly in private calls with Trump. Lasting peace can only be achieved on Moscow's terms. At a minimum, that means reviving the Istanbul agreements with additional territorial concessions. At most involves Russia's sweeping 2021. Russia's sweeping 2021 demands to redraw Eastern Europe's security architecture and, in effect, reverse the legacy of the Cold War. It also seems Putin thinks he can secure at least his minimum objectives through brute force. Whether he is bluffing or not, he is clearly using the threat of escalation to pressure Trump. The message is implicit. Worried that Ukraine's collapse will be blamed on you? Question mark. There's one way to prevent that. Make a deal with me. In return, Trump could preserve face, gain economic wins like Nord Stream 2, and claim peace during his term. Meanwhile, Putin gets what he really wants: a thaw in US-Russia relations, an end to sanctions, and, crucially, legitimation of Russia's actions in Ukraine. And if future conflicts arise, he will be in a stronger position. Not to mention, it will strike a blow against the globalists, an enemy both men seems to share. That's the pitch Putin's been making. And by all indications, is what he and Witkoff discussed in their five-hour meeting. Witkoff, for his part, appears to be on board. He said as much during a Fox News appearance on April 15. But the final call rests with Trump, not Witkoff, and Trump faces a difficult challenge. Even if he wants to make a deal, how can he ensure it sticks? The deal will stick. It's not just Ukraine and Europe trying to sabotage the talks. That was to be expected, but opposition is also coming from inside Trump's own camp. Take Keith Kellogg, for example. He might tell Trump that Ukraine will never accept any such agreement. He could argue that Europe is fully aligned with Kiev, and that if Trump really wants peace, he will need to get Putin to accept a European military presence in Ukraine. You want peace? Here's the map. Go make it happen. Then there's Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who may quietly but firmly advance the globalist view. Any peace must be on Western terms. Any peace must be on Western terms, not Russian ones. He might even bring a fresh round of sanctions and another military aid package for Ukraine to the table. It's a situation reminiscent of 2016. Back then, Trump had seemingly cordial relations with Putin, but ended up expanding anti-Russia measures due to domestic constraints. Today, his political position at home is stronger, but so are the stakes. Read more at Chihuahua that thinks is a lie on the decline of Britain. Maybe this was wrote by Pepe Escobar, who knows? I guess Pepe Escobar is the editor-in-chief of Russia Today. Great Pepe. And this is an AI image, a Chihuahua. I definitely going to read this. I love this conflict, this forever conflict between Russia and Great Britain. I hope someday to speak Russian. I hope someday to speak Chinese. And there comes the next paragraph. The fable of the snake and the turtle. For now, Trump is opting for the path of least resistance. His floating ceasefire proposals are considered fair and achievable, but these ideas fall short of even Russia's baseline demands. In essence, Trump is suggesting a freeze. Ukraine unofficially loses territory, receives no security guarantees from the West, but keeps its army, government, and freedom to pursue an anti-Russian foreign policy. This has led to a delicate standoff. Both sides offer peace terms and that the other finds unacceptable, while implicitly threatening escalation if no deal is reached. We have already explored Putin's potential escalatory moves. As for Trump, he is threatening the harsh anti-Russia sanctions to date if talks collapse. Whether that threat is serious or not, what matters is this. The White House is quietly pulling back from military support for Kiev. Recent leaks suggest not only reluctance but growing frustration with Europe's push to continue arms shipments. And it makes sense. If Trump authorizes new aid to Ukraine, it looks like he's continuing Biden's foreign policy, the very strategy he is repeatedly slammed as a disaster. Well, Trump can do nothing. Trump is not a deep state zombie. Whether that threat is serious or not, what matters is the White House is quietly pulling back from military support for Kiev. Recent leaks suggest not only reluctance but growing frustration with Europe's push to continue arms shipments. And it makes sense. If Trump authorizes new aid to Ukraine, it looks like he's continuing Biden's foreign policy, the very strategy he's repeatedly slammed as a disaster. Yet globalist forces seem intent on boxing him into exactly that outcome. At the moment, Moscow and Washington seem unable or unwilling to take meaningful steps toward each other. But either side wants to admit failure or trigger fresh spiral of escalation. It's a waiting game. Who will blink first? That standoff won't last forever. Trump will soon need to make a call on new military aid, while Putin is expected to launch a new offensive as the spring-summer window opens. Nice analysis. It's very well written. That's what I mean. Timur Fomenko was the best writer in my world. In my world, because he's progressive. You know what the next paragraph will talk about. You are expecting it, and then the paragraph comes and says what is all about. It says it's very logical. That's what I mean. So what comes next? Nothing big is expected before mid-May. Rumor has it a high level U.S. delegation may attend the 80th anniversary of World War II victory celebrations in Moscow. And it's not Putin's style to spoil the party with bad news. Looking past wildcard scenarios, there are three plausible paths forward. First, back to the business as usual. Peace talks between Russia and the US stall, forcing Trump to stay the course and back Ukraine. Russia's summer offensive might unfold slowly, and it did last year, grinding down Ukrainian defenses over time. Second, the South Vietnam playbook. Trump and Putin strike a deal that lets Trump wash his hands of Ukraine and shift the blame onto Europe and Kiev. The truce won't last. It it will it will rest solely on personal guarantees between the two leaders, while the underlying conflict remains unresolved. And third, total Ukrainian collapse. This is the scenario Putin keeps hinting at. Russia delivers a decisive military blow that collapses Ukraine's front lines. If that happens, Kiev may be forced to negotiate directly with Moscow, cutting out both the US and Europe. Why not peace? We don't believe in lasting peace right now. Why don't we believe in lasting peace right now? Because no one involved agrees on what peace should even look like. Trump can impose a deal on Ukraine or Europe, and until that changes, the war will go on. Ceasefire or not, the final outcome will be decided on the battlefield. A great article from Sergei Poletaev, information analyst and publicist, co-founder, editor of the Vadfor project. And there's the Vadfor project Telegram channel, which is I'm going right now. What happened? Yeah, I'm joining. There's just Russian. Can I say something? No, I cannot comment. But great. This is a smart guy channel, Telegram channel. Read more. Trump's deal window. Will Moscow seize the moment? But I like it. The Chihuahua. Let's read everything. Let's read everything as the sun is rising. March 31. I'm not sure about it. March 3rd. No, this just gone. This date. I don't like this kind of old news because it's not important anymore. April 17. April 17 is 5 days ago. A Chihuahua that thinks it's a lion. The decline of Britain. London's global influence is dead. Only the bluster remains. By Timofey Bordachev, program director of the Valdai Club. And there's a Chihuahua with a lion shadow, imaginary shadow of a lion. The image was generated using AI technology. Yeah, great image. Yeah. Say goodbye to illustrators. Say goodbye to graphic designers. There are only 2 countries in the world that have exercised full autonomy over major political decisions for more than 500 years. Russia and Britain. There are only 2 countries in the world that have exercised full autonomy over major political decisions for more than 500 years. Yeah. Interesting. What this means that they are free. They have been free. I don't know what happened 600 years ago, but who lost that? Who lost back then? But yeah, definitely Russia and Britain. Maybe Russia had domestic revolutions, isn't it? There are only 2 countries in the world that have exercised full autonomy over major political decisions for more than 500 years. Russia and Britain. No others come close. That alone makes Moscow and London natural rivals. But now we can say with confidence that our historical adversary is no longer what it once was. Britain is losing its foreign policy clout and has been reduced to what we might call, quote unquote, Singapore on the Atlantic. Britain is losing its foreign policy clout and has been reduced to what we might call Singapore of the Atlantic. Yeah, so that's that. How to say? Dirty tricks by Russia. By that's reality. That's reality. An island trading power, out of sync with the broader trajectory of world affairs. And just making a point here, commenting something from Singapore. Singapore is aligning with China. Singapore is 100% now. Singapore is 100% ally from China. Yeah, the fall from global relevance is not without irony. For centuries, Britain caused nothing but harm to the international system. It played France and Germany off one another, betrayed its own allies in Eastern Europe, and exploited its colonies for exhaustion. Yeah, the British people, they are savages. They are savages. Like the cavemans, yeah. The cavemen, they are just... But I like these white women, you know? I like British women. They are so white, and I don't know. I like them. The fall from global relevance is not without irony. For centuries, Britain caused nothing but harm to the international system. It played France and Germany off one another, betrayed its own allies in Eastern Europe, and exploited its colonies to exhaustion. Even within the European Union, from 1972 until Brexit in 2020, the UK worked tirelessly to undermine the project of integration, forced from within and now from without, with backing from Washington. Today, the British foreign policy establishment still attempts to sabotage European cohesion, acting as an American proxy. Yeah, how deep, how low British have gone, have fall, how down. Anyway, the late historian Edward Carr once mocked the British worldview with a fictional headline, quote unquote, "Fog in Channel, continent cut off." Fog in Channel, continent cut off. This egoism common to island nations is especially pronounced in Britain, which has always existed beside continental civilization. It borrowed freely from Europe's culture and political ideas, yet always feared them. That fear was not unfounded. Britain has long understood that true unification of Europe, especially involving Germany and Russia, will leave it sidelined. Thus, the primary goal of British policy has always been to prevent cooperation between the major continental powers. Even now, no country is more eager than Britain to see the militarization of Germany. The idea of a stable Russia-Germany alliance has always been a nightmare scenario for London. Whenever peace between Moscow and Berlin looked possible, Britain will intervene to sabotage it. The British approach to international relations mirrors its domestic political thought: atomized, competitive, distrustful, or solidarity. While continental Europe produced theories of political community and mutual obligation, Britain gave the world Thomas Hobbes and his quote-unquote Leviathan, a grim vision of life without justice between the state and its citizens. Yeah, so Thomas Hobbes was very British, was very negative, very what can I say? Savage. That same and continental Europe produced theories of political community and mutual obligation. Yeah, like Rousseau. Yeah. That same combative logic extends to foreign policy. Britain doesn't cooperate; it divides. It has always preferred enmity among others over engagement with them. But the tools of that strategy are disappearing. Britain today is a power in steep decline, reduced to shouting from the sidelines. Its internal political life is a carousel of increasingly unqualified prime ministers. This is not simply a result of difficult times. It reflects a deeper problem: the absence of serious political leadership in London. Even the United States, Britain's closest ally, is now a threat to its autonomy. The Anglosphere no longer needs two powers that speak English and cooperate and operate under the same oligarch political order. For a time, Britain found comfort in the Biden administration, which tolerated its role as a transatlantic intermediary. London leveraged its anti-Russian stance to stay relevant and insert itself into US-EU relations. But that space is narrowing. Today's American leaders are uninterested in mediators. During a recent trip to Washington, Prime Minister Keir Starmer could barely answer direct questions on foreign policy. His deference reflected a new reality. Even the illusion of independence is fading. Meanwhile, France's Emmanuel Macron, for all his posturing, at least leads a country that actually controls its nuclear arsenal. Britain claims to have authority over its nuclear submarines, but many doubt it. In 10 years, experts believe it may lose even the technical capacity to manage its nuclear weapons without US support. At that point, London will face a choice: full subservience to Washington or exposure to EU pressures, especially from France. Recent talks in London of sending quote-unquote European peacekeepers to Ukraine is a case in point. Despite the unrealistic nature of such proposals, British and French officials spent weeks debating operational details. Some reports suggest the plans stalled due to lack of funds. The real motive was likely to project relevance and show the world that Britain still has a role to play. But neither the media spin nor the political theater can change the facts. Britain's global standing has diminished. It is no longer capable of independent action and has little influence even as a junior partner. Its leaders are consumed by domestic dysfunction and foreign policy fantasy. In practical terms, Britain remains dangerous to Russia in two ways. First, by supplying weapons and mercenaries to Ukraine. It increases our costs and casualties. Second, in a moment of desperation, it might try to manufacture a small nuclear crisis. If that happens, one hopes the Americans will take the necessary steps to neutralize the threat, even if that means sinking a British submarine. Yeah. There's nothing positive for Russia or the world in the continued existence of Britain as a foreign policy actor. Yeah, definitely. Well, at least we have the English language to communicate with Russian people. That's the truth about Britain. There's always something positive, you know, and we will build communism thanks to English language, just like Karl Marx did. Anyway, there's nothing positive for Russia or the world in the continued existence of Britain as a foreign policy actor. Its legacy is one of division, sabotage, and imperial plunder. Now it lives off the curbs of a bygone empire, barking from the Atlantic like a chihuahua with memories of being a lion. The world moves on, Britain does not. This article was first published by Vigliad newspaper and was translated and edited by Russia Today team. Maybe it was written by Pepe Escobar, who knows. I guess I'm done, and I'm just going to remember what I saw him. Another article that says, "Time's up. Russia's next move against Russia could be decisive." Yeah, and that's it. Time's up. Russia's next move against Ukraine could be decisive. Who knows? Yeah, maybe then, maybe later, yeah, this is just too much war details, Milu.